Imagine getting the keys, walking into your new house, and then finding out that the seller left you a problem that you could have caught yesterday. Maybe the refrigerator that was supposed to stay is missing entirely. Maybe there was a repair that everybody said that was finished, but it's still leaking. The garage may be still packed with junk. An outlet that was negotiated after the inspection still doesn't work. That is the kind of mistake that hurts twice. First, you have the actual problem, and then comes the part that actually stings. You had one last chance to catch that while the seller still owned the house. That is what the final walkthrough is really about. It's not a celebration lap. No one should walk in, just take a quick look around and say, okay, looks good, and then head to the closing table. At this point in the transaction, you're standing in a very small window of leverage. Behind you are weeks of inspections, negotiations, lender requirements, appraisal work, repair requests, and scheduling. And in front of you is ownership of your new home. Once those closing documents are signed, the same issue that belonged to the seller this morning might belong to you this afternoon. So that timing changes everything. Most buyers are mentally done by the walkthrough. They're tired, but they're excited, they're stressed, and they're ready to move on. And for military buyers, that pressure can be even worse because PCS timelines don't care about whether the garage door opener works or whether the seller left a pile of junk in the shed. So you might be coordinating household goods, temporary lodging, leave, report dates, kids, pets, utilities, and a closing all at the same time. And that is exactly why this last step matters. The walkthrough is not where you decide whether you still want the house. You're checking whether the deal you agreed to is still the deal that's sitting in front of you. So the first thing I never ignore is any repair that the seller promised to complete. During the inspections, the buyers and the sellers are going to make commitments. The plumbing issue gets negotiated, electrical repairs get written into an addendum, the seller agrees to service the HVAC, address a leak, replace a broken window, or correct a safety concern. So by the time the walkthrough happens though, everybody wants to believe that those items have all been handled, but that belief is not enough. An invoice can look official and it can still fail to prove that the problem is gone. A contractor may have shown up, gotten paid, and repaired the wrong thing. Somebody might fix the visible symptom while the actual cause keeps creating damage behind the scenes. The only question that matters at the walkthrough is whether the issue performs correctly now. If the seller agreed to repair a leaking sink, open the cabinet and check for moisture while the water runs. When a faulty outlet was part of the negotiation, test the outlet instead of just admiring the brand new cover plate. A garage door that supposedly got serviced should open, close, and reverse properly and operate the way it's supposed to. Roof repairs, those are harder to verify in person, so documentation, photos, contractor notes, and an inspector follow-up become way more important. So I'm not looking for reasons to delay closing. My goal is to just keep buyers from inheriting a promise that never became reality. So one buyer might decide that a small unresolved item isn't worth disrupting the transaction. Another buyer might want the issue addressed immediately, credited properly, or handled through whatever legal and contractual options are available to them. The correct answer really just depends on the situation. Ignoring it because everyone is already dressed for the closing table, that's not a strategy. The second thing I watch for is damage that appears after the seller moves out. An occupied home hides way more than people realize. Furniture is going to change the way a room looks, storage creates some blind spots, wall damage can sit behind a headboard for years. You might have a rug that covers up some scratches, pet stains or uneven flooring, or even old watermarks. But once the seller's life leaves the property, the house becomes way easier to read. So I want buyers to slow down right there. Not suspiciously, but just carefully. So look at the walls that were blocked before. Notice the flooring where the rugs used to sit. Pay attention to corners that were packed with furniture during the showings. Check the path from bedrooms, the living rooms, and the garages to the exterior doors, because that's where move-out damage happens a lot of the time. Movers are moving stuff around, they're gonna scrape the walls. Heavy furniture can dent the trim. Appliances can just gouge the flooring when they're dragged across the floor instead of being lifted. So a seller may not even know something happened, especially if the movers handle the job. The walkthrough gives everybody the chance to address condition before the conversation becomes a lot harder. A scratch on the wall, not automatically a crisis. Floor damage in a high visibility area, that might be worth discussing. Fresh drywall repair in a spot that never came up during inspections, that's probably gonna deserve a closer look. So what's changed since you agreed to buy the property? That question matters more than whether the house still photographs well. The third thing that I do not gloss over is missing or swapped property. Now that sounds simple until it actually happens. Buyers often remember what they saw during the showing, but the contract is what controls what should remain in the house. That difference causes a lot of problems. The stainless steel refrigerator in the kitchen might have helped the home feel move-in ready, and if it was excluded from the contract, then the seller might have every right to take it. On the other hand, if the agreement says the refrigerator conveys and a different appliance appears before closing, then the buyer has a legitimate reason to ask some questions. The same issue comes up with washer and dryer sets, garage refrigerators, TVs mounted to walls, smart thermostats, Ring cameras, shelving, curtain rods, blinds, mirrors, and even some security systems. Some items are fixtures and others are personal property. And then there's a few that kind of fall into this gray area unless the contract is very specific. So at the walkthrough, I want the buyer comparing reality to the written agreement. If a seller removed a wall-mounted piece of equipment, look at what was left behind. Are there exposed wires? Did the removal damage the drywall? Was the bracket supposed to stay on the wall? Maybe the missing item is super minor, but maybe it affects the buyer's immediate move-in plan. Either way, this conversation belongs before closing, not 2 days later when everyone has already moved on. So the fourth area is mechanical function. I do not care if everything worked during the inspection 3 weeks ago. That was then. Houses can sit vacant, weather changes, utilities get transferred, breakers trip, condensation lines clog, garage door motors fail at super inconvenient times. A system does not owe you consistency just because closing is scheduled for 2 o'clock today. So during the walkthrough, I want to prove that the house is still functioning. We're going to run water long enough to learn something. We're going to flush the toilets, check for leaks under the sinks, turn lights on in all the rooms, operate the ceiling fans. We're going to test the garbage disposal if one exists. We're going to make sure that the appliances that are supposed to remain actually respond. We're going to verify the HVAC is producing the expected result, and understanding that you're not replacing a full inspection in that one moment. You want to open and close the garage door, look at the exterior hose bibs when that's relevant. Small tests like this can catch problems that would otherwise become yours immediately after closing. So disposal that doesn't work may not destroy a transaction, but a leaking supply line can create some real damage if nobody sees it before the keys transfer. An HVAC system that fails during a Charleston summer is not the kind of surprise that most buyers want after spending their cash to close. For VA buyers and first-time homeowners, preserving cash after closing is super important. Every unexpected repair competes with moving costs, furniture deposits, family needs, and all the normal expenses that come with starting over in a brand new home in a new place. So the fifth issue is utility access. A walkthrough without utilities is a weaker walkthrough. If the water's off, the plumbing can't be checked properly, there's no power, that means the electrical, the HVAC, the garage doors, the appliances, the lights, and some safety items are impossible to verify. Gas service is going to matter a lot when the systems depend on it. So a seller who moved out early may have shut something down without thinking about your walkthrough. And sometimes utility transfers happen too soon. Other times it's a vacant property that's just been partially disconnected for weeks. Whatever the reason is, the result is still the same. The buyer's being asked to approve a home that can't be fully tested. That should not be waved away casually. There might be a reasonable solution. The parties might turn utilities back on and complete the walkthrough later. A closing attorney may advise on some available options if something can't be verified. And in some cases, documentation or prior inspection results might reduce some of the concern here. The key is recognizing the limitation instead of just pretending that it's not a big deal or doesn't exist. Pressure makes this one dangerous. Everyone is waiting, the schedule's tight, people start saying things like, well, it was fine during the inspection, right? And that may be true, but it may also be incomplete. So a lot of change can happen between the inspection and the closing date. The walkthrough is your chance to catch what changed. So the sixth thing I pay attention to is debris, trash, leftover personal property. This one's not glamorous at all, but it is super practical. Paint cans in the garage might seem super harmless. Old chemicals in a shed can become a disposal problem though. Broken furniture left in the attic, that's not exactly a housewarming gift. So construction debris that's beside the home, random boxes in the closets, tires behind the fence, and some mystery items under the porch, all those things deserve some attention. For someone PCSing into the Charleston area, this can matter immediately. You may not have a free weekend to clean out someone else's mess that they left for you. Household goods could arrive before you have time to deal with the garage. Temporary lodging might already be costing you money. Work schedules do not always allow for a dump run 2 days after closing. So if the property is supposed to be delivered empty or in a particular condition, verify that condition before you actually sign. Open the closets, look in the storage areas, check the garage carefully, walk around the exterior of the house. If there's a shed, make sure you know what's actually inside there. Crawl spaces and attics really should only be checked if it's safe and appropriate, but don't assume that any unseen areas are empty just because the living room looks nice and clean. A few leftover paint cans might be acceptable to one buyer, and a garage full of junk might be a real issue for another person. The important part is making the decision intentionally while leverage still is in your hands. The seventh thing is a little harder to measure, but I still never ignore it. A house that suddenly feels different deserves some attention. Now, different doesn't mean bad, it just means that something has changed enough for you to notice. So maybe it's like the home smells musty today when it never smelled that way before, or a room is unusually warm even though the HVAC is still running. Fresh paint shows up in like one small area after an inspection repair. The seller's explanation for an item doesn't match what you previously discussed. I mean, maybe you see moisture where everything was dry before. Maybe the utility room sounds a little different. Maybe the yard has standing water after a recent rain and nobody mentioned drainage issues before. So none of these things automatically kill a closing, but they do give you a reason to pause. The final walkthrough is not the time to become agreeable just because the process has been exhausting. That mindset is going to help the wrong person. A buyer can be calm, reasonable, and still ask sharp questions. So that's the balance. You don't need to turn every single concern into a giant fistfight, but at the same time, your future self may not appreciate you ignoring something obvious just because everyone was waiting at the closing table. So when I feel something is off, I want to identify the source. Is the concern visible? Can we test it? Does the contract address it? Was it part of the inspection negotiations? And could it affect the immediate occupancy? Would it cost real money if the buyer owned it tomorrow? Those questions turn discomfort into a decision. So sometimes the answer is simple and everybody just moves forward. Occasionally, the issue requires a delay, an agreement, a repair, a credit, an escrow arrangement where legally appropriate, or further professional input. Nobody loves that kind of interruption, but still, an inconvenient conversation before closing is usually better than an expensive argument after closing. So here's the bigger point. A final walkthrough protects your leverage. That's the whole purpose. It's not about being difficult. You're not trying to renegotiate the whole deal in the last 10 minutes. This visit exists to confirm that the seller is delivering the property in the condition and the terms that have already been agreed to. Repairs should be complete, included items should still be present, systems need to work as expected, utilities should allow for proper verification. Move-out damage, you can't ignore that. Trash and debris shouldn't become your surprise project. And any new concern deserves some attention before ownership changes hands. Buyers lose money at this stage because they confuse being close to closing with being safe. But those are not the same thing. The transaction might be almost finished, but the word almost matters. Until closing happens, the seller still owns the property. So you gotta use that time wisely. If you're approaching closing, bring your repair agreement, know what items you're supposed to convey, take your time in every room, test what you can reasonably be tested, and slow down a little bit if something doesn't match the deal you agreed to. For military buyers, especially anyone moving under PCS pressure, this step can feel like one more thing between you and getting settled. And I get that, but 5 careful minutes in the right room can save you from months of frustration. A final walkthrough, not exciting. It's not the glamorous part of buying a house. Nobody makes a vision board about testing outlets and checking under the sinks. And that's exactly why it matters. The boring parts of real estate are often where the money hides. So if you're buying with a VA loan, if you're relocating to Charleston, or if you're getting close to closing on your first home, subscribe to this channel for some more breakdowns like this. My goal is to help you understand the parts of the process that people just rush through usually, because those are usually the moments that cost the most when something else goes wrong.